All right, welcome back to the channel. We are here someplace different, aside from taking y'all to the parks or anything like that. I'd like to show y'all around San Antonio and let y'all see the different parts that nobody really sees, or a couple of nice, beautiful spots. But we are here at Traders Village, which is a flea market. I think the biggest flea market in San Antonio. I'm not sure. So yeah, you can find anywhere from toys to generators to golf carts, anything, anywhere in between. They do sell food. I don't know if we're gonna get some or not. Still trying to figure that out. We just barely got here. About the next session we're gonna go over, it is a tournament that happened at Rustlers. 500 guarantee. Usually I try to play that every Wednesday, so if you go there Wednesdays, you'll probably see me. It's starting to get bigger. Granted, the cutoff is a little quick, so it's before, at first break instead of second. So you basically have an hour and I think a half to get in. But the pot gets bigger. It says 500 guarantee, but it usually gets between 700 and 1,000. So it's actually good fun. It's chill. You can't beat the free beverages, complimentary beers, wines, seltzers, hard teas. Right now, everything's complimentary, and they do provide food, pizza, Subways, whatever they feel like getting us that day. Let's go over the session and stay tuned for my thoughts for after the session. Alright, welcome back to the channel. We're going to go ahead and start off with 20k in our stack, 15 starting, and then did the $10 appreciation, which gave me another 5k. So 20k starting. Just to go ahead and give y'all a heads up, the camera's shaky and a lot of the colors don't look right. I tried this whole new Pro Apple Res Raw Data Gateway Open, I don't know, something like that. But then I realized I'm not a filmmaker, so I don't need all that. That's why a lot of the new intros that y'all been seeing, especially at Hayes Bridge and some other stuff, have been with a new iPhone. It's just this is the first time I was using it to record anything. So a lot of the camera angles that I did start with, I didn't like these few hands. You can see myself playing, but you can't really see the table. You can't see the action going. The angles are kind of weird. And then, like I said, later on in the vlog, you'll see it kind of shaky and you'll see kind of weird colors. So just bear with me this vlog. The next ones that are coming out are a lot better. Alright, so the first note we're going to go over, blinds are 100, 200. I'm in early position looking down at Jack 9 of spades. I'll go ahead and raise it up to 800. Folds around to the button, who ends up 3-betting me to 2100. Folds back around to me. I just go ahead and decide just to make the call.
Sure, I'll be a huckleberry.
Heads up to a flop of Queen 9-7, 1 spade. I go ahead and check to the raiser, who ends up checking it back. And we off to see a turn, which ends up coming at 10 of diamonds. I'll go ahead and lead out for 2,000, having an open-ended straight draw, trying to get some value or some fold equity. And to my surprise, he ends up going all in. I didn't pay attention to how much he had back, but good for us. He only goes in for 7k. Don't think I can do anything but call here, having a pair and an open-ended straight draw. Off to where we end up going, which ends up coming an offsuit king. So we ended up making our straight. I don't know what villain had. I know we just ended up making our straight, and we're up to 30k now. So off to a good start. Nothing happened too much in that level, but with 19 people now in the tournament, we end up changing tables. Blinds are going to be 200, 400 at this point, and we're 6-handed. In this hand, everybody limps. Yours truly is in the big blind with Big Slick. I go ahead and raise it up to 5k. Maybe a lot at this point, but you got to think 3 times the last bet plus 1 per player, and a little extra because we're out of position. And as played, only early position ends up making a call. We end up betting heads up to a flop of 7, 10, 6 with 2 spades. I'll go ahead and c-bet to 3K, and early position ends up folding. Nothing happens so much for the next level, for this level and the next level, just a few hands like this here and there, raise and then end up taking it. And we're slowly starting to build up on our stack. Now in this hand, the blinds are at 300, 600. I got 33K in my stack. There's one limper, ends up folding around to me in the cutoff, looking down at the parking lot hand. Ace queen offsuit. I'll go ahead and raise to 1800. I know it's a little low, facing one limper. I should have made it more. Probably wasn't paying attention. But only the middle position limper ends up making a call. Heads up to a flop, which comes 2, 10, 10. Ends up checking to me. I'll go ahead and continue applying the pressure. See betting to 2500. Middle position thinks about it, and he must not believe me because he ends up making a call. We end up making a turn, which ends up coming at 6 of hearts. Villain ends up checking to me. I go ahead and continue applying pressure, betting 5K this time, and he goes ahead and makes a fold. Hands like this is what's going on for this next few levels, but we're starting to accumulate a stack here.
Check out the new view, homies!
Alright, there's 20 people in the tournament. I'm already up to 37K at the blinds level 400, 800 when this hand happened. Cutoff goes ahead and limps. Heroes on the button with 5-6 offsuit. It's stupid. But I end up trying to play this hand, so I make the call, small blind, and big blind end up checking. Which ends up us being 4 ways to a flop, which comes 7, 10, king with 2 hearts. Everybody checks to me. I go ahead and bet 1500. Just go ahead and try to take it down. Seemed like nobody was interested in it, but I was wrong because the cutoff ends up making a call. Already in trouble. Heads up to a turn, which ends up coming a jack of spades. Cutoff ends up checking to me. I go ahead and try to continue the pressure with betting 2500. Cutoff has other ideas. He goes ahead and min raise me to 5K. Yeah, I end up doing something stupid. So I'll go ahead and making the fold. Been trying to work on not calling light as well as trying to play hands better, especially in position and ranges and everything like that. I don't need to play in these dumb hands, but for some reason I keep on playing them. After that hand happened, we end up getting a little card dead. The blinds end up being 500,000, 7-handed, but I wasn't really getting anything. So playing small hands here and there, just trying to make anything happen, end up costing me and end up getting down to 16K at the break. All right, we are at break. Yeah, what can I say? Kind of playing like crap, but not really getting in hand, so I'm trying to fight for something. I think I'm doing the wrong fighting. And so I'm in for, I didn't have to rebuy, so that's good. So I'm in for 20 plus a $10 dealer appreciation. Always get the dealer appreciation and appreciate your dealers. That goes a long way. Anyways, in for 30. I went ahead and did the rebuy, the add-on for $45. So technically in for 75. So let's see what happens. It does look like the price pool is going to go up. I will let you know what that happens. And hopefully we can get some better cards and play a little bit better. I think I'm going to put my headphones on and start playing at least kind of serious poker, at least what I think is serious poker. But I'm just trying to enjoy life and just trying to enjoy being here. And yeah, let's see how it goes. See you later. Coming back from break, we ended up having about 65K in our stack. The price pool did go over 500 and ended up being 760. Which makes 380 for first, 190 for second, 114 for third, and $76 for fourth place. Small little tournament, but end up going over 500, so that's always a plus. End up coming back to 1K, 2K with a 2K big blind ante. We end up being 7-handed when this hand happens. There's an under the gun limp. Low jack ends up going all in for 2,500. Folds around to me in the small blind, and I'm looking down at 10-3 suited. A little loose, but as far as the price is concerned, I just go ahead and gamble. I end up making a call. Not worried too much about under the gun 3-betting or anything like that. But people have been playing passive all night long. So I'll go ahead and make the call and sow to see. 3 ways to a flop, which comes Queen 8-9. Even though I flopped a gut shot, I'll go ahead and check, and under the gun ends up checking back. 3 ways to a turn will end up coming at 5 of diamonds. I go ahead and bet 5k, just trying to get heads up with the all-in player. I know some people don't like it, like why you gotta bet into a dried side pot. For me, I always learned that I'm trying to win a tournament, which means I'm trying to win every single pot. I'm not trying to ladder up or get to the next pair, whatever case it be, so all the chips count. So I'd rather be heads up to a river. And that's what happens. Under the gun ends up folding. And the low jack, who was all in, ends up showing Queen 8 offsuit. He ends up flopping 2 pair. So we're going to need some help, dealer. And he gives it to us on the river, which comes a jack of spades. We hit our straight. And that's going to happen kind of for the rest of the night. Is I end up becoming a little river rat. But there's more to come. Shortly after that hand, another person busts from our table, which ends up breaking it. So we end up moving to 2 tables and end up being 9-handed when this hand happened. This is the very first hand that I get at the table. The blinds are 1,500, 3,000 with a 3,000 big blind ante. I'm under the gun and I'll go ahead and raise it up to 6,500 with King 10 of hearts. Early position ends up calling, ends up folding to a small blind, who ends up raising up to 28k. This guy, I know he plays a lot loose, very aggressive, kind of likes to put max pressure on you when he can. Trying not to sound too technical or anything like that, but I know I'm getting at least 2.5, 2 to 1 odds on this. And I know for a fact that my hand ends up playing very well against somebody who's a little bit loose like he is. With that being said, I go ahead and make the call, and early position ends up folding. Before the flop even comes out, small blind ends up shoving all in the dark. So that tells me he has a little something. Like he doesn't want to get hit like aces, kings, jacks, ace, king offsuit, something like that. Most people who do this have a hand that they do not want to get outdrawn. But as played, we end up being heads up to a flop, which comes ace, queen 5 with 2 hearts. I'll go ahead and snap call with all my outs. I can't really not call in this position, end up having a straight and a flush draw. I'm not going to lay this down. I have too many outs to not call. And sure enough, he ends up having ace, king offsuit. Off to see a turn in the river, which comes a 5 of diamonds and 8 of hearts on the river. Let's go. End up making my flush. Told you those pot odds came in handy. And because of that hand, we end up having 135k in our stack. And with that, I kind of end up joining a little red wine with my friend. Just enjoying the good vibes and with everybody having a good time. Moving on to the next hand, which ends up kind of being a starter of things to come. Kind of the roller coaster ride of what tournaments are. So, or at least in poker in general. The blinds are 2,000, 4,000 to 4,000 big blind ante. I end up having 142k in my stack. The cutoff button and the small blind end up limping. I'm in the big blind looking down at Jack 9 of clubs. I'll go ahead and raise this to 22k, trying to thin out the field. And since everybody limped, I assume that they didn't have anything strong. I would have probably heard them raise or all in or whatever case it would be. But as played, I'll go ahead and raise to 22k. Folds around to the button, who goes all in for 11,500.
You're an angel.
I'll go ahead and call. It's not going to be that much. And we end up being against King Deuce offsuit. Yep. We're against that, ladies and gentlemen. Anyways, to a flop we end up going, which comes Queen 4-4. Well, that didn't help us. We need some help here, dealer. Come on. The turn ends up being the 8 of spades. Okay, we have a gut shot. And sure enough, on the river, ends up coming to 10 of hearts. We end up making our straight and taking one person out in the process. Let's go. All right, in the very next shuffle, blinds are still 2k, 4k, 4k big blind ante. Ends up folding to me and the small blind, looking down on pocket 5s. I look at the big blind and say, sorry, I gotta raise it. She's a good poker player, ends up being a friend of mine as well. I'll go ahead and raise to 12K. Big blind starts talking to me about calling with BS hands and all that stuff since she hasn't been getting any really good hands lately. With the bullshit hand standard, what else?
I'm sorry, I'm really working on this second laptop. And that's what the dining table's gonna be.
And she decides to gamble with 6-8 of clubs. So pocket fives for 6-8 of clubs. Off to a flop, which comes queen 2-2. Okay, looking good for pocket fives. Turn is the ace of hearts. Okay, all we got to do is dodge a 6 or an 8. And down and dirty for the river, which comes at 7 of clubs. So we end up holding and I'm taking my friend now. She's a good sport about it. And with that, we are up to 180,000. Let's go. In this particular hand, the blinds are going to be 3,000, 6,000, 6,000 big blind ante. Undergun lips folds around to me in the cutoff, looking down at king queen offsuit. With this hand, I'm going to go ahead and raise to 18K, and only the undergun limper calls. So heads up to a flop, which comes 6-3 jack. Undergun ends up checking. I end up betting 11,000, and she goes ahead and makes a call. Off to a turn, which comes a jack of clubs. She ends up checking to me again, still trying to tell my story that I end up having some sort of good hand, trying to make her fold out ace highs or some small pocket pairs, betting 20K this time. She still doesn't believe me, ends up making a call for 20K. I'm going to end up needing some help, which does not come on the river. It comes at 8 of clubs. She checks. I'll go ahead and try to bet one more time. I bet 25K. I know this is a little small. I know I should be betting bigger, maybe about, I don't know, 45K, 50K probably would have done the trick. But also I should have looked at her stack because she ends up making a call for less and showing pocket sevens. So she called all the way down with pocket sevens. Interesting. Duly noted. And with that hand, she ends up coming the thorn in my side for the rest of the night. With that failed bluff attempt, we end up dwindling down to 116K. Where 600 blinds are still 3,000, 6,000, 6,000 big blind ante. I'm under the gun and looking down at pocket queens. With this, I'm going to go ahead and raise up to 18K. And only the big blind ends up making a call. Heads up to a flop we go, which ends up coming 6 ace 4 with 2 clubs. The big blind ends up shoving all in. Chances of him having an ace right now are pretty high, but at the same time, you still could have 6s or 4s or maybe a club draw, any of which are possible. And for that, I can't let go of pocket queens. End up making a call, and he flips over ace 10 of hearts. So we're gonna need some help. The turn ends up being a 7 clubs. Okay, so we pick up a flush draw to go with my 2 outs for the queen. Off to see a river, which ends up coming.
Sorry, no tortilla. Wait a minute. There's a ray of sunshine in all that darkness down there. Come up here, sweetness.
One of those 2 outs ends up being a queen. We end up getting trips on the river. Sorry about that, my friend, man. It is what it is. You would have done the same thing too. And with that, we're 5-handed. Going into the next hand, which happens a few hands later. Cutoff ends up limping. Your boy is on the big blind with pocket 8s. I'll go ahead and raise this up to 30K. Folds around to the cutoff. Who is the same person that ended up calling me down with the pocket 7s, just makes a call. So kind of ready, looking for revenge against her. As we go heads up to a flop of 6-10-6. Surprisingly, she ends up leading for 10K. Being suspicious on how she ends up playing, I just go ahead and make the smooth call. I don't know why, I'm just already starting to get a bad feeling about this hand. Normally when she leads out or when anybody leads out from a raise, especially on this hand, they're either trying to protect something or feeling like they have to bet because they have a really good hand. But as played, I go ahead and make the call. Off to a turn, we end up coming another 6. All right, so we end up making a full house, but she continues betting for another 10K. I go ahead and just make the call. Like I said, there's something suspicious about this. I'm not feeling good. Her demeanor is kind of calm and excitement kind of thing like that, almost eagerness. As played, I go ahead and call down to the river, which ends up coming a 5 of diamonds. She ends up checking. I check back pretty quickly, like I said, not feeling this hand, so I have a full house, and sure enough, she ends up showing pocket queens. I told you I didn't have a good this hand, and I told you she's become my nemesis for tonight. After that last hand, we end up joining down to 90k, which ends up being 15 big blinds. There's 10 left in the tournament. Blinds are still 3,000, 6,000, 6,000 big blind ante. Everybody ends up folding, and it turns into a battle of the blinds. Small blind ends up calling. I look down a 10-4 offsuit. I go ahead and check my options, and once again, me and my nemesis are heads up to a flop of Jack 10-3 rainbow. She ends up betting 8k. I just go ahead and make the call. I do have a pair, but I'm ready to give this hand up already as it is. Turn ends up coming an offsuit king. She goes ahead and bets 15k. Like I said, I'm already done with this hand. I go ahead and fold without even looking. And she ends up showing me ace queen offsuit for the turn Broadway. And she's one of them tricky limpers that you gotta always watch out for. And today, she has my number today, which ends up leading into this fun hand. There's 2 limps before me in the small blind, looking down at queen 8 offsuit. I just go ahead and make the call, not really thinking that big blind's gonna go ahead and raise or anything like that. Sure enough, they end up checking, and we're Texas heads up 4 ways to a flop of Jack 3-8. I go ahead and check, and ends up checking around. I guess nobody had none of this. 4 ways to a turn, which ends up coming a 5 of spades. I'll go ahead and lead out for 8k, thinking nobody wants this pot. I'll go ahead and try to steal it right away, having some sort of pair. And only the button ends up making a call. Same girl like last time, calling me down with everything. The river is another 5. I go ahead and check, and she goes ahead and shows ace king offsuit. So we end up winning this one with a pair of 8s. But like I said, she's playing very tricky today. Shortly after that, we end up moving to the final table. Let's go, having 103,000 in my stack. After we move and find our seats, the very first hand that we end up seeing, somebody ends up getting out. 1 down and that much closer to end up being in the money. So let's go. All right, we made it second break. Yeah, that was a roller coaster ride in that second half. Yeah, she just had my number. I can't even say anything bad about her or anything. She just had my number. She kept slow playing everything, so that kind of got me. Oh well, it is what it is. Still made final table. Have 102,000 or something like that in chips. So doing well. At least doing above their average, I think. But anyways, yeah, made final table, and we have a fighting chance. Let's see if we can run it. Moving along to the next hand. The blinds ain't getting any shorter. There's going to be 6k, 12,000 big blind ante. There's 6 players left. I still have 186k in my stack, which comes to 15 big blinds. The low jack, high jack, and cutoff end up limping. I'm in the small blind with king jack offsuit. I'll go ahead and raise to 31k, trying to fold all the junky hands and everything that comes with it. And only the hijack and the cutoff end up making a call. So 3 ways to a flop, which comes 10, 3, deuce with 2 clubs. I'll go ahead and end up c-betting to 30k. Thinking about most of the time I still have the best hands, because any pairs, any high pairs, at least I would have heard from like an all-in or anything like that.
What do you want to do with it?
But I guess I was wrong, because the hijack ends up moving all in. The cutoff ends up moving all in quickly after him.
How much?
What did I start?
The big stack.
So I asked for counts. Again, giving me time to think. Hijack moved all in with 33, so it's just 3 more to call. But the cutoff ends up having 62,000. That's about 33k to end up making the call. And you can hear me do calculations in my head about equity and pot odds and what I have, what they're probably shoving in with this point and everything like that. But I figured I have about, I don't know, 6 to 1, 7 to 1, and I only need about, I know, something like 15 to 20% equity to call. So I end up making the call. After the dust is all settled, we find out that I'm up against Queen Jack off with the Queen of Clubs, and believe it or not, King 3 of Spades, one of the hands I was trying to raise and get out the pot, but I guess not. So off to turning river, which ends up coming Queen of Spades on the turn. Okay, once again, dealer looking for some help in the form of the Jack, which doesn't come on the river. It comes up 4 diamonds. So not only did we lose the main pot, we end up losing the side pot to King 3 of Spades. Come on, man. Really didn't get any hands that level. So on to the next level, which ends up being 7,000, 14,000, 14,000 big blind ante. We're still 6-handed. I have 105k in my stack, so gonna need to do something pretty quick, fast, and in a hurry. The hijack and the cutoff end up just limping, folds around to me in the big blind, and I go ahead and check my option with King 9 of Hearts. This should have been a jam, but against that girl, she's got me gun shied. I just wanted to see a flop because she already got me gun shy with everything. And that's what happens. We end up being 3 ways to a flop, which comes 6 King Deuce, all clubs. I end up checking this when normally I would end up shoving, but like I said, she gave me a little PTSD from her just keep beating me all the time. So I end up checking. She ends up betting 20k. The cutoff ends up making the fold. I just go ahead and make the call. Heads up to a turn, which comes a 7 of diamonds. I end up checking to her again, which she ends up putting the pressure on by betting 40k. Now I'm in the tank. Again, normally I would just snap call with my king, but I'm just so gun shy when it comes to her because, like I said, she's been slow playing a lot of hands, and I really don't even know what to do. I'm really contemplating about folding this hand for some reason.
Hey, life's a risk, carnal.
But in the end, if she got me, she got me. It is what it is. I end up moving all in for 57k. She ends up attacking just for a little bit. It's only 17k more, so she ends up making a call and turns over Queen 6 of Spades. So all that worrying and everything like that was almost basically for nothing. Only thing we need to do is dodge a 6 or a queen on the river, but we end up doing better than that and hitting a 9 on the river for giving us 2 pair to make sure we end up winning this one. And with that double up, I end up having 245,000 in my stack. Nothing happened too much in blind levels 8, 16, 16. Just a bunch of folding, and if I did win some small hands, they were very small hands, nothing to really write home about or even mention about. But we end up dropping down to 4-handed, so we end the money. When this hand happens, the blinds are 9,000, 18,000, 18,000 big blind ante. I have 232k in my stack. Phones around to me in the cutoff, and I'm looking down at pocket kings. I'll go ahead and raise to 40k, and only the big blind ends up calling, which will end up being heads up to a flop of Queen 3-5. Surprisingly, the big blind ends up bleeding out for 30k. Well, there's nothing to do but to go ahead and rip it all in and see what he has. So that's what I do. I'll go ahead and go all in, and he ends up calling it off with Jack 5 offsuit. So we're looking good when it comes to the turn of a 10 of spades. Alright, all we gotta do is dodge a 5 or a jack, in which we do, which ends up coming at 6 of clubs. So we end up holding and taking one person out in the process. Now down to 3. All right, how about that? Made it to a third final break. We're at 3-handed left. The total price pool was $760, I believe, or something like that. 380 for 380 up on top. So not a bad. I know it's small. I know it's not your 50,000 first place kind of thing, but hey, 300 is 300, and it helps you a little bit. So trying to win this, trying to play decent poker. I know I made mistakes, but I'm just trying to play a little bit more final table strategy to win, not to just ladder up and pay. So there's a big difference with that, and we're gonna see how it goes. So right now, like I said, I think we're gonna, I don't know what the blanks are gonna be, but we have 400K in our stack coming back from break. Let's see. Let's go. With the blinds being at 10K, 20K big blind ante, I found myself only having 325K left when this hand happens. Under the gun calls, button ends up folding. I'm in the big blind with 4-6 of clubs. I go ahead and check, and we're heads up to a flop of 2 king 5 with 2 clubs. Having flopped a flush draw and a straight draw, I go and continue betting for 30K, and she ends up making a call. I don't know if she's trying to play tricky or not, but the turn ends up coming another king. With that, I go ahead and check, and she ends up bidding out for 60K. And I'm in the blender a little bit, not too much. In the end, I just have too many outs not to just go ahead and call. So that's what I did. I'll go ahead and call. Looking to see a final card, which comes a 7 of clubs. So we end up making our flush. With that being said, I don't want it to go check. So I end up shoving all in for 215K. She tanks about it and ends up making the call. And we end up finally getting her back. And she jokes around the same way and tells me about how I finally got her. Finally, yeah. Took all night. But I'm glad I did when I did, especially being 3-handed. Let's go. Shortly after that hand, the short stack ends up shoving it all in. I'll go ahead and call with 4-10 of hearts. Short stack ends up having ace-4 offsuit. And we end up holding with flopping a 10 on the flop and running out smoothly. So now we're heads up with a big chip lead. So now being heads up and it being kind of late, I normally don't do this, but I go ahead and offer a chop, not an ICM chop. I don't know why people agree to an ICM chop when you're a chip leader. You're gonna only get screwed in the end. You end up becoming out less than what you're gonna supposed to have. So I end up offering her a chop out, which I end up taking 350, and she would end up taking 220. If you would like to do something, I could take 350 for first, and you can take 220 right now, because right now the payout's 380 for first, 190 for second. Good. She agrees to it, and just like that, we end up winning $350. All right, how about that? We end up winning this in for 75 and cashed out 350. So pretty good up. I know it's nothing big, like I said, but starting small, trying to get up to those and just get the experience that I need to continue playing well. I made a lot of mistakes, so I'm not even gonna try to sugarcoat it. It is what it is, but at least I won. So yeah. So until next time, man, let me know how you like this phone and the little switches and things I did. Like I said, leave it in the comments below, so that way I know what's going on and what y'all like and everything. Like I said, this phone has some new features and trying to use them and see what y'all like, what y'all don't like. All right, so we won. I think I played okay. Got really lucky towards the end, especially against that one girl. Man, she was my nemesis, like for real. She made me gun shy. I couldn't really play strongly and aggressively like I wanted to normally against her, and for some reason she had my number all night, but I got her in the end. But anyways, like normal, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like, drop a comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. I'm gonna go enjoy my raspa and probably go get something to eat. All right, see y'all later.